Welcome back to another explainer, everyone. Today, we're tackling the ultimate origin story, us. We're literally tracing the multi-million-year journey from the very first upright walkers out on the African savanna, all the way to the birth of complex civilization. It's this incredible story of survival, a physical transformation, and honestly, most importantly, the cognitive leaps that let humans spread across the globe. So buckle up, because we are going way, way back.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap so we don't get lost in millions of years of prehistory. 1. The first human steps. 2. Tools, fire, and migration. 3. The rise of Homo sapiens. 4. The Mesolithic transition. And finally, 5. The Neolithic revolution.
First up, let's look at the sheer scale of human evolution on this timeline, because it is absolutely massive. Notice how long those early stages dragged on. We've got Australopithecus way back around 4 million BCE, then Homo habilis at 2.4 million, and Homo erectus at 1.8 million. It actually isn't until 200,000 BCE that our own species, Homo sapiens, even enters the chat. And those huge cultural shifts, the Mesolithic and Neolithic ages, they happen in the comparative blink of an eye, just 10,000 to 8,000 years ago. It's wild.
All right, Section 1, the first human steps.
So meet Lucy. She is without a doubt the most famous fossil of an Australopithecus, which just means southern ape. Discovered in Ethiopia back in 1974, she lived about 3.2 million years ago. And her lower limbs and hip bones, they were an absolute game changer. They proved she walked upright on 2 legs. You see, before Lucy, scientists kind of assumed our brains grew large first, but she proved that standing up was actually step 1. It freed up our ancestors' hands to carry food, hold babies, and eventually craft tools.
The paleoanthropologist Richard Leakey really hit the nail on the head here. He said, Lucy's bones told us that walking upright was the first step towards humanity. Standing up was literally the physical cheat code that set the stage for absolutely everything else that was to come.
Moving right along. Section 2, tools, fire, and migration.
And this brilliantly illustrates the leap we took next. Just look at the difference here. On one side, we started with these really simple flakes and cores of the Oldowan industry, dating back 2.6 million years from Olduvai Gorge, used by Homo habilis. But skip ahead to the Acheulean hand axe, used by Homo erectus. Do you see that symmetry, that deliberate teardrop shape? They aren't just banging rocks together anymore. This takes real cognitive skill, forward planning. It's actual design.
Archaeologist Graham Clark made this fantastic comparison that really puts it into perspective for us today. He called the hand axe the Swiss Army knife of the Paleolithic world. It was this perfectly adaptable, multi-purpose survival tool that proved our ancestors were getting a whole lot smarter.
Now, tools are great, but to migrate and survive in totally different climates, there was another huge milestone. So, quick question for you. Which human ancestor do you think was the very first to control fire?
Well, if you guessed Homo erectus, you got it. Living between 1.8 million and 300,000 BCE, Homo erectus was the very first species to spread way out across Africa, Asia, and Europe. And their secret weapon? For sure, it was fire. At sites like Zhoukoudian near Beijing, researchers have found these thick layers of ash and charred bones. Controlling fire was a totally monumental turning point. It gave them warmth during the Ice Age, it kept predators away, and maybe, most importantly, it let them cook meat. Cooking releases more calories, which literally fueled their rapidly growing brains.
Which brings us to Section 3, the rise of Homo sapiens.
To wrap our heads around our own rise, let's look at how historians chop up this massive timeline. The Paleolithic Age, the Old Stone Age, totally dominates, going from about 2 million BCE all the way down to 10,000 BCE. During that whole time, humans were strictly nomadic hunter-gatherers using those stone tools we just talked about. Then things really start speeding up. The Mesolithic Age bridges the gap from 10,000 to 8,000 BCE, bringing in a semi-nomadic lifestyle. And finally, the Neolithic Age kicks off around 8,000 BCE with the incredible invention of farming.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what it says about the mind of late Paleolithic Homo sapiens. These are rock paintings from the Bhimbetka caves in India. As early humans spread globally, they brought art with them. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were observing, recording, and communicating. They're developing complex language, making intricate tools like bone needles for sewing, and building deep, complex social structures.
The historian Yuval Noah Harari sums up our species' ultimate superpower so perfectly. He says Homo sapiens conquered the world because they were the only species that could cooperate flexibly in large numbers. It wasn't just that we were smart individually. It was our ability to share ideas, beliefs, and strategies across huge networks. That is what let us thrive everywhere we went.
Okay, Section 4, the Mesolithic Transition. As the Ice Age ended and the world warmed up, we enter this middle transitional era, and the true hallmark here is the microlith. These tiny, geometrically shaped stone blades, usually made of chert or quartz, they changed everything. Instead of lugging around one heavy hand axe, humans started fitting these little razor-sharp blades into wooden or bone handles. They made composite tools, arrows, sickles, spears. It was a massive leap in efficiency. Suddenly, they could hunt smaller, faster animals and systematically process wild plants.
So the key takeaways from the Mesolithic era are right here. Because these new tools were so much more efficient, people didn't have to constantly stay on the move. We start seeing semi-nomadic lifestyles, people building huts and staying put for a while. But the most profound milestone? The very first domestication of animals. Around 9000 BCE, at places like Langnaj in Gujarat, we find the bones of domesticated dogs. This is huge. Domesticating the dog wasn't just about having a hunting buddy. It literally marked the very beginning of human control over nature itself.
And that brings us to Section 5, the Neolithic Revolution.
Let's put this in direct contrast so you can really grasp just how absolute this transformation was. For millions of years, Paleolithic humans were nomadic. Their food supply dictated where they lived, they foraged wild plants, and they hunted together. But hit the Neolithic period around 8000 BCE and everything flips. Humans establish permanent housing. Instead of chasing food, they grow it through crop cultivation. Instead of hunting wild herds, they pen them up and manage them. It is a complete, fundamental revolution in how humans lived.
If you want visual proof, take a look at the excavated ruins of Mehrgarh in Balochistan, discovered back in 1974. This shows exactly what this farming revolution looked like on the ground. These people weren't sheltering in temporary caves. They were building real, structured mud brick homes. They were cultivating wheat and barley, domesticating cattle, sheep, and goats for milk and meat. They were finally putting down permanent roots.
Let's move on and see how this builds, because settling down created entirely new problems. Think about it. Once you grow a bunch of food, you have to store it, right? Early humans started hand-making clay pottery, but then came another massive leap, the invention of the wheel. The potter's wheel let them churn out varied, efficient pottery to store their grains and seeds for the next season. And human ingenuity just didn't stop there. The wheel's impact rippled outward. It led straight to carts. Suddenly, humans could move heavy loads and transport goods way faster and further than ever before. It connected different settlements and basically paved the runway for trade.
So, we've traveled from the very first footprints in volcanic ash all the way to the bustling agricultural settlements that set the stage for Bronze Age civilizations. Human history is really just this incredible story of compounding innovation. We stood up, we shaped stone, we harnessed fire, we learned to cooperate, and we totally bent nature to our will. So, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If the journey from those simple Oldowan snowflakes to the invention of the wheel took well over 2 million years, yet we went from the wheel to landing on the moon in just a few thousand, what will our next evolutionary leap look like? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.